Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee, doing all right. Doing all right. I've got a new bike.
You've got a new bike. You went to the Cycle Superstore, got your new bike. You're good to go. I seen the price tag on it. I'm like, you know what? I'm happy with running. But after this week of the podcast, I feel below average being happy with running.
And to be honest, I'm glad I cycle. But before we kick into the intro, a big thank you to everyone who is listening. Our listenership is growing and growing and growing each week, and it's absolutely amazing to watch. Well done to everyone who's continuing with their marathon training, and our marathon episodes, as everyone has seen, is one of our top downloads. The 10 mile is around the corner. People are still trying to figure out their marathon training. This is a point where now you need to start taking yourself serious and getting into it. And if you haven't got enough motivation, this next episode is exactly for you.
Oh, 100%, Eric, and I can't wait for everyone listening to this week's episode. We're just coming up in just a minute, but right before we do, I do want to send a quick shout out to Anthony, who was on the podcast earlier this year talking about his triathlon journey, as well as Shane and everyone else at Team Pro Racing Cork, because they are doing the Ironman coming up this weekend. I think this Saturday, August 20th, down in Cork. Guys, best luck with that. I'm sure you're going to kick ass doing it. Can't wait to hear how you guys get on. But before all that, we're just going to hit the intro music of this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast. Let's go. So in this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast, our special guest not only set an Irish national record for running 89 laps in a backyard ultra last year in the backyard masters of Germany, he assisted the world record at the time. And in this year, he's heading to Tennessee in 3 months' time to compete in the World Championships. Keith Russell, welcome to the Any Given Runday Podcast. How are we?
I'm good. Thanks very much, lads, for having me on.
Great to have you, Keith. I got to ask this question. Brian, I know you've achieved a lot in running, but when you hear assisted world record, that assisted word, is that something you're proud of? Like, because we talked before this, the podcast, never met you before, and thinking like you were technically a lap away from getting the world record, but the person doesn't get the world record without you getting so far. Do you consider it a team effort, or like what was going through your mind after that 89 lap?
Disappointment.
Like you're involved in the world record there, but at the same time, like it just
it took me a couple of weeks to actually just realize that end of it and sort of take that in. But I was disappointed because obviously I went out there for the win. Like Marion Gertz is an incredible ultra runner with like loads of races behind him. And I'm relatively new to this as well, but I learned a lot. I learned an awful lot in that race, I have to say.
I think that was...
You had enough time to learn. You had 88 laps to figure it out.
Like, just for context for people, that is obviously over 4 days. I think I can't even do the maths on it, but it is 597 kilometers of running. And the running time was 66 hours, 14 minutes and 22 seconds. Keith, I've gone to Dublin Airport and gone to holidays and come back in less time than that. Like, that is phenomenal.
And I still learned the DNF.
It is the absolute crudest sport in the world. And we're going to get into more detail on that. But like this is only 6 years after you basically started running, Keith. Like that is phenomenal to come, like get an assisted world record, and people are listening going, geez, he must be running and doing backyard ultras all his life. But this is like a relatively new thing. And for you, running is a relatively new thing as well.
Yeah, I started running in 2016. I ran my first ultra marathon in 2019. And then like obviously I ran my first backyard in 2020 or 2021, and that was actually my third backyard, was the one in Germany for 89 hours.
Was your first one or the second one? You got 65 laps, was it?
63. That was my first one.
Your first one was 63 laps?
Yeah, very first one. I broke the Irish record, yeah.
Sean, you're pathetic.
There wasn't 260 meters of elevation now, in fairness.
15, Keith, 15.
I gave up a good night for 15 measly hours.
I gave up 3 good nights for 89, so.
Keith, That is, and people are like, I find people always find this the hardest part is to go, there's no way he started in just 2016. What was your foundation before you got into running in terms of fitness? Like, how do you decide, I'm going to just start running? What was your foundation getting involved in it?
Well, so I would have been I would have played football, I would have played hurling and all that growing up. But I was smoking from when I was 14, 15 years of age. And I gave up smoking literally to start running. Like I smoked all through playing football, and I have asthma as well, so it wasn't great. You're taking it. You wouldn't smoke, honest to God, you wouldn't smoke on the morning of a game because it affects your chest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is all psychological. But yeah, like I had a daughter, Alanna, so she had cerebral palsy, and just to fundraise, we took on, I wanted to run Dublin City Marathon, because we had to fundraise for our own house. We done a lot of running events and things like that. And I seen someone had a running chair, and I was like, geez, that's something that'd be great to do with Alanna. So 2016, just literally after Dublin City Marathon, I was like, right, I give myself a year to train for that. And I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking, and I literally spent that year completely dedicated to this goal and what we wanted to do. And also raise money for a wheelchair accessible bus for a respite care home that Alanna attended. So like we ended up raising, I think it was over €70,000. We got the bus, and I pushed my daughter in Dublin City Marathon 2017.
Absolutely
That
phenomenal.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's in terms of motivation, like people say motivation will hang around for a little while, but that motivation, that pressure as a parent to say, no, me and my daughter are going to do this, that must have been unbelievable to one, keep you going, and two, like that drive, because it's for more than you, really, isn't it? That 42 kilometers was for more than you.
Absolutely. As I said, like to run a marathon is incredible. To run it pushing my daughter was something so special. Like we spent the year traveling the country, doing 10Ks, doing half marathons, 5Ks, and she was welcomed everywhere we went. Everybody came over to talk to her. She couldn't talk. She couldn't walk. She was wheelchair bound. She was peg fed, but she always smiling. She was happy, and she loved the attention, obviously.
That is phenomenal, Keith. Myself and Eric had a horrible day the first time doing the marathon.
Hold on. I put across you, Sean. What time did you and your daughter do the marathon?
I didn't want to ask this question because I'm afraid it was faster than us, Eric.
It's definitely faster than us.
What time do we do?
Yeah.
3 hours, 21 and 47 seconds.
That same marathon did 5 hours, and we were fit young lads.
We were not fit, Eric. We were not fit.
Oh my God.
Your very first marathon, you were pushed and you did 3:21.
So what I did was in June of 2017, I ran Port Dublin Forest Park Marathon purely because I wanted to run a marathon myself first to make sure I could do it on my own. So, and just the way it worked out, I ended up winning my first marathon, but it was 3:25. So I came first in it. And then that gave me great confidence, obviously, going into Dublin, pushing Alanna. So, yeah, 3:21:47 was the marathon with Alanna, yeah.
And how did you take on, and again, I want to just highlight back to the grassroots, because we're going to talk about the extreme of what you're doing now, but in order for people who are saying, and we hear it all the time, like, why are you running a marathon for? Where would you get it? How did you find your fitness developing over that course of time? Were you going out at 5-minute Ks because of your football fitness anyway? Or did you notice a change in your fitness? And where did you start to say, right, it's ground zero. Where are we going to get to this marathon? What is the road, the pathway we're going to follow? What's the training we're going to do? Or how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so what I did was I started doing the park run with her. So what I didn't even have a proper running chair. I had like her day-to-day wheelchair. So it was small wheels. But what I did was I used to tilt it back on the two back wheels because the front wheels were so wobbly, you couldn't push it, otherwise it'd be all over the place. So I tilted it back on its two wheels, and we done the 5K park run, and we were doing about 24 minutes that way. Like, do you know what I mean? So you're sort of going, just like, this is decent enough. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So from then on, a fella that I know actually contacted me, and he had a proper 3-wheel running chair for a child with disabilities. So he lent me that, and I ended up getting that for the 10K, the Marie Keaton Foundation 10K run. So that was the first time that I had a proper running chair. And, you know, it made so much difference, you know, rather than what happened is my whole hands used to just go numb from holding it backwards, like, do you know what I mean? But once we got the proper running chair, and then obviously as we've done our training through to Dublin, my father's company actually sponsored like a real decent one for her, because Alanna's day-to-day chair was a molded chair. So what happened was the seat would come out of her day-to-day wheelchair and it'd sit into the frame of this running chair. So it was the exact same make, and it was just an absolute game changer. You know, you could feel you were getting more pace. Now, people have this perception that, so you're holding on to the chair, like you're obviously going to be running faster. And that's fine. Like, going downhill, you have to hold on to the chair, because otherwise you won't catch it. Right? Yeah. You can run beside it with one hand. Going uphill is where it gets tough, because all in all, you're pushing about, I think it was about 40 kilos. So you're pushing up the hill. Your quads, your hamstrings, your calves all take the pressure, because you've no motivate, you've no use of your arms whatsoever. So it's your legs that are taking all the pressure of it. And like, you know yourself, pushing 40 kilos up a hill, especially you at 20 miles, Dublin City Marathon, it's tough.
Yeah, it's not easy. There's a few big hills. As the start of that marathon, like, people who are saying, sure, you're holding on to the chair, like the first 8 to 10 kilometers is predominantly uphill for the Dublin City.
For Castleknock, yeah. That's
and it, cut right through the Phoenix Park, yeah.
And you're bearing the brake. Then you have Chapel Lizard Hill, and then it's relatively flat until, as you said, you come into that 20 mile, and then you have to find this new level to keep pushing up that hill. Like, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's one thing I always admire, is that ability to do a marathon and to do it with that extra penalty. And it's a weight penalty up a hill. And and to be honest, I use it as a motivation for myself when I see people doing this with someone else. It's like, what am I giving out about? Get out of my own head and keep running, because there's people who are going through a hell of a lot more for great causes, and it's absolutely phenomenal. But like, well done again for that, and being your first one. You set the bar phenomenally high. Me and Sean are pathetic.
It won't be the first time I feel like that in this podcast.
And then from that, obviously, it went strength to strength. Then from your running, so you got into the ultra. Was from the marathon, did you kind of realize what can I do, or how far can I push this?
Yeah, well, look, like, after I'd done Dublin, we took a bit of a break, and I had plans with Alanna to do more. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, in December 2017, Alanna passed away suddenly at home. So it was 6 weeks after doing Dublin, and I've never taken the chair back out. You know, we never took it back out after the marathon, and I haven't took it back out since. It's hanging up in my father's garage, and I can't even take it out. You know, I took it down there one day, and I was looking to sort of give it to somebody that wanted use of it, and I couldn't even put it together. I just walked away. Like,
not easy. And I suppose as well, when you're dealing with something that was so special for you, a goal that you had, and it was such a special moment with your daughter, how do you carry that then into these runs? Do you still use her with you for, especially when you're going to think about running over 5 days? I'm guessing the motivation of having her, and it's terribly sad that she passed, and it's phenomenal that you still do these runs. Do you still keep her in mind as you do it? Obviously you do.
Yeah, like, look, you go from the highest of high, from doing Dublin, to the lowest of low, to Alanna not being there anymore. Like, she was there one day, and it's like she was gone the next, you know. And it took me a long time to sort of come to terms with that. And it was really when we sort of, because we raised money for the bus, and we had to still do a handover. So we done a memorial run for Alanna in our hometown in Navan, and we handed over the bus. And I think it was more the fact of going, this is what we created, and I wanted to get back doing something that I love doing, and I love doing it with her. And yeah, to keep, I suppose, her memory alive in me was to go back and do Dublin City Marathon 2018. We were given the Lord Mayor's Medal as well, which is given to somebody that's run the marathon for a special cause. But they also retired Alanna's number from Dublin, number 141. So, like, we didn't run the marathon loads and loads of times. Like, we ran it once. So it just shows the impact in the running community that Alanna had for Jim Ogney to retire her number. And that sort of gave me a massive boost of, you know, the good people that are out there. And I wanted to push myself and push my own boundaries. And to be honest, I was using running as a coping mechanism. I was going out running long runs on my own. You're going out for like 20K, 30K on a Saturday, and you do the same on a Sunday. And then I was like, right, well, if I'm doing this distance, I'm going to start looking at doing something. And I seen doing Dublin to Belfast. Now, that was my first. I didn't do 100 miles. I didn't do 100K. It was like doing city to city, north to south, something that just really appealed to me. And it was 172 kilometers. And it was like, right, I can't take this lightly. So I just started training. I was talking to a fella, and he says to me, look, just get used to running on tired legs. He says, that's what you need to do. So I structured all my own training. I trained with my club. A mate of mine is a running coach as well. So I trained with him. And at the weekends, then I'd go out and I'd do same. You do alternate days and you just sort of build each day. And I built it right up to I'd doing a marathon on a Saturday morning, marathon Saturday night, and then a marathon on Sunday morning. So within 24 hours, I'd done three marathons. Yeah. So I worked it up that I was running, I think it worked out about 125 kilometers in 24 hours. But I knew I still had 50 kilometers left to go in the race. Do you know what I mean? So mentally, I was prepared to get to that point. And what I did was I went up to Belfast to the finish and I ran the last 10K. So I knew, right, once I get to here, I have 10K left to go. So mentally, I could see where the finish was. I knew where all my turns were, and I drove the route twice. So it was all, I do a lot of visualization within training as well. So I could see it. I could see where I was stopping. I could see every point that I was turning. And that, to be honest, that was a massive benefit to me to know where the last 10K was and to run into the finish.
And it's something that's made a big difference for me and Sean. We've mentioned it on the podcast a few times. And I go back to people who are doing their first Dublin City Marathon as a base to get into this kind of sport. And then the likes of this clown here doing 4 weeks of training for Dublin City Marathon last year. And it's like, well, how do you do it? It's like, I know the course. I know the suffering points. I know that if I can get to this point, just hold on. And there's a lot to be said for that visualization. It takes the fear of blowing up or hitting the wall and all of those things that the fear mongering happens when you can actually visualize what you're going to eat, do, see at that vital stage where the most fearful thing is going to happen to you. And that's genius in terms of, and a commitment to the training to go to Belfast and finish that out. Yeah.
Look, it doesn't matter if you're a 6-hour marathon runner or a 3-hour marathon runner. Everyone suffers. And I think a lot of people don't think that or don't believe that. You know, like that, the fitter you are, you're not going to suffer. Absolutely you do. You know, I remember coming up there in 2019 and I had 5K left to go and I was absolutely hanging. And my brother was beside and he was running beside me, just roaring at me. And it was actually my first sub 3 hour in Dublin. So I was like 2:58.09 is what I ran. And I was just holding on for dear life for the last 5K, you know, and in your head, you're going, I've ran 5K 1,000 times, so this should be no different.
Yeah, it's the real moneymaker time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And did you get that when doing Dublin? Like, I've done nowhere near that. Like, it's only a marathon now after doing 172K. Were people saying that to you?
Yeah.
It was like, it's only, that's nothing to you.
Yeah.
You still suffer that day, like, especially a sub 3 hour.
But even 5Ks, 10Ks, you know, like I suffer worse than 5K and a 10K. I'd rather do a marathon or do 50K or 100K.
We were in this conversation today about it. Talk about it. It's like, we'd rather do that than do a 5K any day.
5K, 10K, your heart rate is through the roof. Do you know what I mean? And you have to, and it's for a long period of time. Like I actually went to England there a couple of weekends ago and I done a 19-mile race. And this actually plays with my OCD, right? So 19-mile race works out at like 30.5K. So I can't understand why they didn't make it 20 miles and 32K.
Agree.
So I hadn't ran in about 7 months and I went out fast. Like I went out at like 350 per kilometer. And it was a case, right, I'm going to go out fast. And it was an out and back. So 7.5K out, 7.5K back and out and back again. And it was just like, right, I'll go out fast and I'll see how much I can hang on or how much I have to suffer. And I think I ended up running 2 hours 2. And I was like, you know, for the last one back, I was running about 4:05, 4:10, and my legs were in bits. Like, do you know what I mean? And it just felt like you're looking down and it just looks like it's all uphill. It's like, it wasn't uphill on the way back.
Oh, Keith, I am so glad that you, a super duper athlete, has said they'd rather do long distance than 5Ks. I thought just because I was fat minded and I was like, nah, I'd rather plod along than go and burst myself over a 5K.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do long distance any day of the week than a 5 or 10K.
So when you did the Dublin to Belfast and then you go back and do Dublin Marathon, did you get more of a kick out of Dublin to Belfast and lead towards backyard ultras or the longer distances, or is it just you just enjoy running?
Well, look, I enjoy running. I enjoy the longer distance, you know, like that one, Dublin to Belfast. Again, it gave me a massive confidence boost because I finished third and I'd done it in 18 hours and 20 minutes. And, you know, Brilliant. You're just going, look, everything I've done in training pays off. So it's like, okay, what can I do next? And you're like, you know, you start rooting around the internet and it's like, geez, what can push you to your limit? I was meant to do Marathon des Sables as well. I was training for Marathon des Sables, so which is 6 days in the Sahara Desert, fully self-sufficient. Fully self-sufficient, and it was I had the full training block done, and literally a month before it was called off because of COVID. But like at the end of the day, I had a full training block done. Now some of the training sessions I'd done for that was absolutely ridiculous. It was like, obviously in Ireland you don't have the weather to train for 50 degrees in the Sahara Desert, so I had a heater on my wall. Like I put the room up to 45 degrees. I was running with a 10 kilo pack on. I was running a treadmill for like 6 hours. You know, it was cruel. And then I go up the mountains as well, fully layered up, 3 pairs of bottoms, 3 tops, 2 jackets, 2 hats, pack on. And I go up and down the mountain for 5 reps. And I'd be there for 5 or 6 hours at a time, like, you know. So,
when we started this podcast, Sean laughed at me for wearing hats, 2 jumpers and tracksuit bottoms going for a run because I was getting ready for a Madrid marathon that was going to be 24 degrees. And he was like, what are you doing? I was like, it's going to be warm.
It's a little bit different going in the desert compared to running in Madrid in April. You go to Phoenix Park in 3 hats. Go away on that now. I knew you were going to bring that up, but no, no, I still stand by that.
You called me a fool. You didn't say it to Keith. That's all I'm saying.
But you do, like, you have to train to what you're going to do, like, do you know what I mean? And it's the same with all my training. I train specific, whether it's like 24-hour and 1 mile loops, I'll train to that, or if it's backyard, I train to that. So it's always just train specific. But yeah, like obviously, like as I said, I was looking around. So the next one that really came up was to run 24 hours. But it was 1 mile loop. So it was the Irish National Championships up in Victoria Park in Belfast. And so I just said, right, I'll start training for it. And again, there's a park here in Navan and it's 1.5K. And that's where I trained at the weekends. I'd go out there, do 5 or 6 hours one day and do the same the following day. Just build up the mileage. I think I ended up finished 10th overall. Like it was 209 kilometers, I think, in 24 hours was my first one.
Phenomenal.
You know, so it gives you, and now I did say after that one, never again. I lay on the ground after, I said, swore never again am I doing this. But like a week later, you're trawling the internet, go, right, what can I do?
What's next?
Where's my next one? You know, and that's where the backyard then came about.
And where was the first one? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Can I ask, just to give some background for people, because we've had a lot of new followers over the last little while. The 24-hour is a 1 mile loop at whatever pace you choose, and it's how far you can get in 24 hours. Isn't that right?
Accumulated distance in 24 hours. So you can stop as much as you want. You can stop for 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours. You're just losing distance within the 24 hours. There's a hooter at the start and there's a hooter at the end, and you just literally stop where you are and they walk around the track with a wheel just to measure your distance. Now, like, you have people that walk it for 24 hours. You have people that obviously at the higher end will run. But the Irish national record at the moment is 258 kilometres, which is Ed McGorty. I'd be second in Ireland at the moment with 200. Well, I'll be second. I think I was pushed down actually. I have 246.7. So I ran for Ireland last year in Verona in Italy. And yeah, I done 246.7 kilometers is what I have.
Mother of God.
and we're going to get a little bit, but that is only 2-3 months after the Backyard Ultra where you assisted the world record. Am I right in saying that? That was in May, and then you did this in September.
That's right, yeah.
We'll finish that story, what happened in October, what happened afterwards, a little bit later on. But the Backyard Ultra comes next then after, that's your first time doing it then in 20...
That was 2020, so that was
2020.
Really, so the first was 2019, and then obviously when I was training for Marathon des Sables then for 2020, but then COVID hit and everything was just completely shut down. So I did a good one. So what I did was I had all the training done for Marathon des Sables. So me being me, I had the full map of Meath mapped out. So it was 365 kilometers. So I decided like one Friday evening, it's like, well, sure, I'm going to go and do this because there's nothing else to do. So after work on a Friday evening, I just packed up a bag, fully self-sufficient, and I headed off out the road. And I ended up stopping about 220k because I was coming across the road at all about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I couldn't remember coming across the road. I was out in the middle of the road and I was heading out a real dangerous road. And a friend of mine rang me and he goes, please stop. So I was afraid of getting hit by a truck. So I said, right, I'll pull the plug on it. But it was good at a crack, like, do you know what I mean?
What, was your friend with you or was he tracking you or what? Like,
He'd ring me every so often. So he met me in the town previous to that about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I sort of slept for a few minutes in his car. And he was just sort of like going, will you just come home? And I was like, no. Well, what I should have did, like, when I think about it, I should have just went home for a couple of hours, slept, and then got him to drop me back where I was and then start off again. But I didn't. I just pulled the plug on it. And again, one of them that going, why did I do that? Why didn't I just keep fucking going? Like, do you know what I mean? So that sort of thing grinds on me that, you know, you feel like you failed. Do you know what I mean? You feel like you get up too easy. So I think that's why going into the backyard, that sort of thing sort of stood to me of going like, I don't want that feeling again, because for a couple of weeks after that, I was like going, no, that was shit. Like I should have kept going. I should have, like, why did I stop? You know, all because of I was tired. I should have just slept and then got going again. But hindsight.
And so obviously tiredness all comes in. How then do you prefer the style of a backyard where it's every hour on the hour, it's just the beeper goes and you're up there and it's how long can I keep this going? Because ultimately at the end, you're going to be disappointed as you were, but you give everything really, don't you?
Yeah. And I think like people, I don't think people really understand the format of the backyard either. You know, like most ultra races are like 24, you can stop for as long as you want. You know, you can you can sleep for an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever. In the backyard, you can't. You have to be on the start line to go again. Like you can do the lap, it's 6.7 kilometers or 4.2 miles. You do that in as quick as or as slow as you want, but you get, the quicker you do it, the more rest you get. The less, obviously, the slower you do it, the less time, less rest you get. But you have to be on the start line at the top of the hour to go again. And I think people just find that hard to understand. So within a backyard, I'd probably sleep for about an hour within 24 hours is roughly. So it's 5 minutes an hour, but you're not going to sleep every hour. So roughly works out about an hour and 24 is what you'll sleep.
Obviously, you've got a sub 3 hour marathon, so you are a very fast runner. Does that play an effect of doing the backyard now? Because like 6.7 is very manageable for an hour to come in 52 minutes. Yeah. But like realistically, you could do that. And like, obviously you're not going to go all out, but like a 45-minute would be fairly comfortable for you. At what point when you know you're going to be running for 4 days, are you like how are you not running too fast with, like when it's easier for you to run that fast and catch up in that extra couple minutes sleep? Like how do you approach it?
It's down to discipline. Really, really is. You know, like I've seen it time and time again of different strategies. People go out slow, people go out fast. you always see the fellas that go out fast. Grant, they'll do it for a long time. I seen a fella from Austria. He'd done it for like 50 hours, but like he was coming in about 35 minutes, and he was getting 25 minutes rest. I'd come in and he'd be like asleep, like the eye yolks down over him, was off the whole lot. But he only lasted for about 50 hours. That pressure, like your heart rate's going up and coming down, up and you just cannot sustain that. So the way with the backyard is I try to keep it slow and steady. It's like run the flats, run the downhills and walk the uphills. It's the uphills where it kills you. Like all the backyards I've done are 100 meters elevation per lap is average what you do. So you have to be so cautious of burning out. Like you said, like you can walk 6.7 kilometers in an hour, easy.
Yeah.
Like obviously at a quick enough pace, but you can walk it. But like it's just the rest then is what you need at the end of hour, especially if you want to go long. You need to get that 10 minutes rest or 15 minutes rest.
You talked about, you had a video up this week on Instagram, and until I watched this video, I was of the opinion, like, if you're going to train for a marathon, you can train and build up 2-3 weeks beforehand your longest run, setting marathon pace and stuff like that. If you're going to do a 5K, maybe you're going slightly faster than 5K, you're throwing in intervals. But with a backyard, it's like you're not going to go out for 2 days to train for 4 days. But you were talking about doing 6.7 Ks and then resting 10 minutes, then going again. How do you approach that pace compared to your actual day? Do you go faster so the legs are tired quicker? Because obviously you're not going to go days. But again, Keith, actually listening to the podcast, maybe you do train for the entire weekend. I don't know.
No, like as I said, like I train specific. So because it's backyard, I still do speed sessions. So like I've done a speed session this week, and it's hard going. I also do a tempo session, but I do sort of 10K then in between the days. But the weekend is where my work is, this is where it's going to fucking pay off. You know what I mean? Yep. So yeah, like, so going to Tennessee, there's two courses. So all the races I've done has only been on one course, and that's it. It doesn't change at night. Going to Tennessee, it changes at night. You go down through the track during the day, it's very technical. But at night then it goes on road, out and back, and it's completely flat. So now what I'm doing is during the day I'll train. So there's I don't know if you know the Hill of Tara in Navan. So I train up there. So it's 3.4K a lap. So I do 2 laps in 50 minutes and I rest for 10. I actually do it in 45 minutes and I rest for 10. So,
he's in a hurry.
Yeah. So what I'll do is, I'll build that up then. So last weekend I done 4 hours. So I do 2 laps every hour for 4 hours, which is 8 laps, about 27 kilometers. This weekend now I'll do 5 hours. That's going to build. And what I'll build up to is like doing probably 8 hours. Now, the thing about it is you rest for 10 minutes. So that's to get food in. You're not going to sleep. And then you go again. Then what I do is I come home and you'll sleep for an hour. So I'll train through the night. You'll sleep for an hour. So you come home at 6 a.m, you sleep for an hour to go back out to do another 6 hours. That getting up to do the next 6 hours, that is where the fucking work is done, because it is so fucking hard. When that alarm goes off and you have to go, I have to get up now and do the same again for 6 hours. To drag yourself up, to get yourself ready to get out the door, that is so fucking hard.
And that is a lot of the things. Like now we have people in our organisation that have gone through selection and that kind of training, and they have trained on the hills, the classic events they have, 4.5 man, and have failed even though they've done all this training. And one of the questions, and this was one thing that kind of stood with me through my training, is like, yeah, you can do that on the day, but have you ever done that tired? Have you ever done that with 2 hours sleep? Have you ever done that with little food? And what you're describing there is the animal you're going to have to take on when the night gets grim, when you're into day 3.
Yes.
You're taking on minimum food, and it is the hardest thing to train for, because bed is comfortable.
Yeah. Warm, heat. You know, people get weak when they're offered a bed, or they get offered hot food, or offered a hot drink, or, you know, a blanket around them. That's when people get weak. And what they say within backyard, don't die on the chair. you know, if you get up, always get to the start line, get out on the lap. If you time out, you time out. But my thing was just keep getting to the start line every hour, keep getting up there. And, you know, you never know who's not going to turn up. You know, there could be 10 left. And if you don't turn up, there might be no one turn up. Do you know what I mean? So once you get up on the start line, you're giving yourself that chance to get back around, to get ready to go again. Like in the first backyard that I done, I had my brother crewing for me, like at 50 hours. I was walking up a road and I was like going, I just want to lie down here. They just during the day. And I was going, I just want to lie down here. I'm tired. And I said, right, I'll get back around and I'll talk to the lads. So I got back around and I said to my brother, I says, I'm fucked, like I'm done. And there was like a camp bed there, like obviously a military camp bed. Like, so I lay down on that and I went to sleep. I think I slept for like 8 minutes. And he woke me up and I was like, oh my God, I can't go again. So I went out again. Same thing happened again. Felt so tired and I came back around and I said to him, oh man, I'm enough of this. Like, and he was like, just lie down. So I lay down, same again, 8 minutes. And that was it. I was golden then for the next, however long the race went on for. I was perfect. Like, even when the race finished, we finished at 63 hours. I could have kept going. This was finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was still good to keep going. Like, do you know what I mean? And I knew I was.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. You know, so like people say, oh, could you have kept going? Like, and you're going, of course I could have. Like, obviously, if you win the race, you're last man, you go, of course I could have kept going. But like, I honestly could have kept going. You know what I mean? So I hadn't actually reached my potential at that stage. And that was my first one. Like the Irish national record was 48 hours, 49 hours, and we had gone to 63. Do you know what I mean? So we broke the national record. We were about 10 hours, 12 hours off the world record at that stage.
The flip question from the very first question I asked then, you're 10, 12 hours off the world record, and that person that's second, who assisted you to the Irish record, has now stopped. Were you a little bit gutted? Were you like, fuck, we were close, I felt great, we could have kept going towards that world record, how you not let me down?
Yeah.
Such a mad sport.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, even in Germany, when I stopped, I'm sure Moran was going, for fuck's sake, we're only like 11 hours off 100 hours. We could have been the first 2 people to hit 100 hours.
That's banana sport.
Yeah, well, at that distance, you're not thinking of that. Like, and you know, look, we'll get into it, and we'll get into the Germany one, like, you know, because it was insane. You know, it's incredible to be a part of it, you know.
Right before we get into the Germany one, because you've kind of touched it a bit with your doing around Mead and talking about sleep there, without those 8 minutes in between, which sounds like absolutely nothing, but you said it helped you, you're golden. Have you ever suffered with these long runs with, like, is it hallucinations the right word for it? And just, have you seen it, or just that's so tired you just don't know which way you're going? Because you have literally ran for days. Has that happened to you, or have you seen that happen during your runs?
Yeah, no, it has happened to me, like, you know, but it really only happened in Germany. Like, you get it. When I done the Premier of Mead, like you're running down the road and you see trees and they're like monsters coming out at you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know what you mean, Keith. I don't know what you mean.
It's just a shame that you have to go and do something that extreme to get that vision. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a natural psychedelic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but like, you look, at the end of the day, you just acknowledge these things. You know your brain is tired. And you just acknowledge these things, you just pass it off and you just keep going. That's all you can do.
And before we dive into the Germany one, I do want to ask you, because I know on certain things or certain foods I eat and I go, I'm home, I have another lap in me, or I have another cycle in me, I have another 20k. Yeah. What's your go-to foods, or how do you manage? Now, I don't want to give away the trade secrets to everyone else who's going to listen in and try to get one up on you. But what is your go-tos? How do you manage it?
Well, look, I don't mind. I'm actually logging all my training on my Instagram at the moment. So just coming up to the Tennessee, you get a lot of people asking you how you train, what you eat. So what I did was, from last weekend, I've started, right, I'm just posting. Oh, I spoke to my coach on it as well. He says, cool, he's no issues with it. So posting my training, the highs, and obviously there's going to be lows in it too. So people get to see the real side of it, and hopefully going to Tennessee then, that they can see what the race actually entails, and hopefully raise the profile of the sport within Ireland, and, you know, give people a chance to go, like, you can run 100 miles in 24 hours and it can be fairly easy going. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to kill yourself to do 100 miles. My go-to food, it's almond fingers. They're incredible.
Oh, yes.
Massive source of carbohydrate, but they're incredible. Never get sick of them.
Because even with Sean, even in that 15 hours that he did, Sean had highs and lows that were food-based and it was an education for Sean himself in that race as well, as to how to manage food and understand stomach upset was probably too much sugar and stuff. Have you learned a hell of a lot on your training days that you just know, I know that I need a little bit of caffeine now, I know that I need the almond finger now? It's what way do you, or do you just know exactly what you need now? But when we look towards the longer ones, is it everything goes at the end?
No, well, you see, there's a difference then between, say, the 24-hour and the backyard ultra. So 24-hour, you're moving I average, I think, 550 per kilometer for 24 hours. So you're eating, everything you take in mostly is all water, carbs. So you'll be taking in Tailwind or something that's very easy to digest, that's not going to upset your stomach. About 12 hours in, I would sort of try to have a small sandwich with a cup of tea. But other than that, it's all, what do I take in? I think about 70 grams of carbohydrate in an hour is what I need to take in, which is sort of 2 scoops of Tailwind with water and an almond finger or a bun or a Nutella biscuit or something like that. That would sort of make up to 70 grams. They're easy to eat, easy to digest, and you can keep running. You don't have to stop. The only thing is with that then is, say, you have to be very mindful of blisters. Once you start to feel a hot spot, you deal with it fairly straight away. Do you know what I mean? But that's sort of, with that is what I'd look at. Backyard, completely different. You're not running fast enough to burn sugar, so you're not burning glycogen. So gels, any of that sort of stuff, it's just not going to work for you. It's just going to run you. So you try to eat whole foods. You go with what I was eating, like fried potatoes, pretzels, cheese, and then look, anything. But you try to keep it sweet and savoury. It's a massive. You have to do a massive change between sweet and savoury.
It's and it was something. Sean was a bit shocked when I started shoving sandwiches into him, and then every odd lamp I'd put a few crisps in the sandwich, and he'd get the crunch, and he would just be like, "Oh yeah, that was lovely."
Yeah. And the worst hard jellies in my life, I almost choked on going up the hill. But anyway, moving on from my measly 15 laps to you in the Backyard Masters in Germany last May 2022, and this is where you got your 89 laps. When you were starting this, did you know how long you think you were going to go for, or what was the mindset going into this one?
Yeah, again, I got an so this was invitation race. Alex Hall, the race director, contacted me, and because I'd done over 40 hours, he was inviting whoever done over 40 hours into this race. So I took him up on the offer. I knew that going into it, there was some runners that were obviously the Belgians are very, very good. Belgium's only 3 hours away from where we were. And I knew going into it, there was some good runners going to be there. So you had potential to go a long way. Did I expect it to be there for that long? Alex wanted 100 hours. That was his goal. It was to go for the 100 hours. And, that's what I wanted as well. So I went in there with a very, very positive mindset, but still, as I said, not knowing what my breaking point was. And because I had done the very first one, I'd done 63 hours. I'd done one in the February previous, and I'd done 37 hours. Cahill McFarlane dropped out at 36. So we only had to do one more, but that was in Castle Ward. The weather was absolutely abysmal. It was cold and shite, But so going to Germany, we went over and it was warm. It was very, very warm. During the days, you're talking 25, 26 degrees. And I love the heat, But at night, it got a little bit chilly. But when you went down into a little meadow, and it just got ice cold. And then when you come back up out the meadow, it was warm again. So it was mad.
Oh, that's mad.
Yeah, it was crazy. But like it went around, and then about halfway point, you had to like a kilometre walk up a hill. Now that was the part where during the night it got very, very lonely, because as the course whittled down, you spend a lot of time on your own. I normally use headphones, but in this race I couldn't listen to music, I couldn't listen to anything. So I was just literally in my own head for that length of time. And that's where you have to have a really, really good crew with you, because when you get back around, you need them to do stuff for you. So literally I came in, I handed them my bottles, took off my top, took off my runners, took off my socks and lay down. They sorted everything out while I slept for 5 minutes. They woke me up. And when I woke up, I'd be sit on the chair. So just to chat, just to talk to them, have a laugh, have a joke. But I was always, my aim is to be on the start line on the last bell, which is the minute to go bell. Yep. So I'd go to the start line. And once we're walking to the start line, we'd have a chat about, right, this is get around this lap. That's all we have to worry about, is get around this lap. Don't worry about 10 hours, 15, 20 hours from away. It's too far. Get around this one. And then we sort ourselves out again. Do you know what I mean? And that was the game plan, was just hour by hour.
It's just so just because like 1 hour could be 30 hours down the line, 40, 50 hours down the line, just keep on going. Was there a point then where you knew it was going to be just the two of you? How long was it just two of you running?
Mori was the Japanese runner, so he finished with 80 hours in the World Championships in Tennessee last year. He dropped out at 74 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it was myself and Moran for 15 hours.
Jesus.
We never ran together. He was always a little bit slower than I was. This is another thing that sort of grinded on me too, like that. I had to keep my splits at a certain time. So I'd hit a certain point at a certain time. If I was 30 seconds behind, I'd feel like I was behind. So the next point I had to sort of felt like I had to pick it up a bit. So I was doing laps in about 46, 47 minutes. And I was very, very consistent with that. Again, that was probably to my detriment too, because I couldn't allow myself to go over 50 minutes,
Would that help you keep it in a flow though? Like, would you feel like if you're running too slow, or, it's not that it's harder to run slower, but you're kind of running out of rhythm, whereas you were constantly, like, you were on a routine for 89 hours, like you hit this spot this time, that would have helped. Just going forward a bit, do you think your mindset would change now going towards Tennessee or future backyards, or are you still going to be this time split here? Because you sound like you might change that. Yeah,
like you do. You come very robotic about it because the more it goes on, the more you cannot rely on your mind to take you around. You have to nearly be like muscle memory, because you're falling asleep. You don't want to sort of look around and go, oh, was I supposed to turn there? Was I supposed to keep going or what? Do you know what I mean? You have this indecisiveness. So that's probably why I kept it the way I did. But at night is the problem. So at night, your RPE, your rate of perceived effort, is going to be a lot. You're meant to be asleep. So your RPE is going to be a lot higher. Whereas if I brought my pace back, so if I allowed myself to go to 51 or 52 minutes, my body wouldn't get as tired. Granted, I'd have less rest. But if I allowed myself to do that for 2 or 3 hours, it could just get me through that, say, 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning part that, I'm not using more effort to get around.
Yeah, for anyone thinking about doing a backyard ultra, that's worth listening to the entire episode alone for valuable information like that. That is phenomenal. So
we're gonna clip that bit and sell it now.
As long as you put "said by Keith Russell" underneath it, copyright. It's but that's the problem, and as I said, this was the big thing for it after the race for myself, was like, why didn't I just sort of, I should have leaned on my crew more to tell them this, and they would have told me it's okay to go for 50 minutes or 52 minutes. There's no issue with that, even 55. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in my head, it was like, no, I can't do that because I need to be consistent. And I suppose that's where as I say, the OCD end of it comes in. It's like going, I have to be around in 47 minutes regardless. So you're nearly, it feels like you're sprinting up the road to make it. And it's not like that at all.
And it's kind of like if you go back to your 2 sleeps for 8 minutes, it's this too shall pass kind of thing. That list, accept the 52 minutes, and then let's see how we are in 4 laps after 52. We might get back there.
Yeah, and most of the time you see backyard ultras will finish early hours in the morning. Majority will finish at early hours in the morning because of that issue.
That is absolutely amazing. Are these invitational races not boring for the first 2 days?
That's why if anyone says to me, oh yeah, give us the link, we'll watch it, I'd be like, don't watch it for the first 2 days. It only gets interested when day 3 comes, because everyone's like, it's like The Walking Dead. Do you know what I mean? Like the start line, and everybody's it's like trying to start up a motor. Everyone's trying to get going. But then once you get moving, like, you're grand.
Yeah. It's just like when you get to that level of athlete at an invitational, like genuinely, you must all be looking at each other for the first 24, just catching up. How's things? How you get?
Yeah, pretty much it. Like even like Tennessee now is going to be very interesting, because I've said it on my Instagram. I reckon it's going to go for over 100. I reckon 110 hours. No doubt about it, because I was second in the world after Germany. Now I've been dropped to 6th in the world at the moment. The record is 102. There's 2 lads at 101. There's a lad at 96. Do you know what I mean? So these all want to push the world record, and Laz obviously wants the world record back in Tennessee as well. I reckon you need to be looking at 110 to 120 hours.
The stage is set for it, really.
Yeah, it really, really is. Yeah.
And is it going to be Mr. Russell with 110 hours?
That's the plan. That is the plan.
Does that give you a bit of confidence knowing that, like, had you changed your strategy a bit in the early hours of the morning and getting 89, that would at the moment get another 10, 11, 12 hours in and get closer to that 110? Do you have confidence now in that getting further?
Yeah, so where I'm sort of dragging confidence from is, so my first one was 63 hours. My second one was 89. There's 27 hours increase in that. If I can do another 27 hour increase, I'm up to 115 hours.
The maths adds up.
The maths adds up, and like anything, as long as it makes sense in your head to give you that drive, it's now achievable. It's the driving to Belfast to see the last 10K. You've seen a 27 increase before. You can definitely see it again, and that mentality alone should hopefully give you the encouragement.
That's it. And like as I said, any of the ones I've done have been the same lap over and over again. Going to Tennessee, it changes every 12 hours. So I think even the mindset around that is right. If you start to struggle, you can say in 6 hours' time, I'm going to be changing to the other lap. So that'll keep you occupied then for the next, 6, 7 hours. And then you can do the same again in 5 hours' time. I'm going to be changing back to this one. So it's going to keep you occupied going. It's going to be a different terrain. It's going to be different sites. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you're not on the same one time and time again.
And to your point in game plan, it's changing to the flats on the night. Yes. So a 50-minute flat route is definitely a hell of a lot of less RPE through the night. So this could go a very long way.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm actually, as I said, I'm training Pacific as well. So I have at night outside my house, like I have literally a straight road for 3.4k, and I turn and come back 3.4k, and I just sit in my car for 10 minutes and go again. My neighbours must think I'm crack going on.
Even the guards just drive past you now going,
that's key.
Leave him alone.
So
he's on night patrol. That's Faircom phone.
Neighborhood watch is just key. So you went from May doing the backyard masters. Then in September, you represented Ireland at the European Championships. So that's just a throwaway compared to everything you've done. And that's where you did the 246K.
Yes.
You then did Dublin again in 2022. And you were talking to us right before the podcast. And that's when I was like, Keith, you have to stop talking. We're recording this. I want to hear more about it. You shouldn't have done Dublin. Why?
No, I shouldn't have done Dublin. And so when I finished in Germany, I was very disappointed with how it got on. It's my first ever DNF on my record, coming second in, and like being an assist to a world record. I was disappointed for a few different reasons. I think mainly because I feel I gave up. I feel I quit. And that really, really grinded on me, for a long period of time. And I think I just had to come to realization that it's a learning curve. And, you're one of two people in the world to ever do something like this. I'm not an egotistical person, but to get your mind around this, to get yourself back to training again, you have to find some solace in what you've done. Do you know what I mean? So it's the only thing is with ultra running, you don't get too many a year. You have to wait a period of time before you get to go again. But when I finished in Germany, I had an email to say that I'd made it onto the Irish 24-hour team. So again, it was a massive boost. But the problem was that it was such a short space of time. So it was September. So I had to get myself back in, like get recovered and back into running shape again. But it was obviously for a 24-hour race, it was the European Championships. But yeah, I started to struggle after the backyard. I started to get issues with my hip. But again, I thought it was just because it'd gone so long, thought just things were just starting to tighten up, you know what I mean? So the main thing was to get through the 24-hour, and then I'd be able to sort it out. Like I had loads of time then to do whatever. But I did. I got through the 24-hour, but I was in serious pain. Come the last couple of hours. Again, I couldn't walk after it. Like I'd say 2 or 3 days before I could even walk again. And that was purely like, obviously after running for 24 hours, your legs are sore, but my hip was very, very sore. But yeah, like that was an incredible experience. Like to represent your country, like you go through the whole process of, you go out, you walk behind the Irish flag, you're with some of the best ultra runners in Ireland and the world. I was there for the world record. The new 24-hour world record was set at 330K. Alexander Sorokin, you know what I mean? Numerous country records were broken. Our own Irish record was broken by Ed McGorty at 258 kilometres, the furthest anyone has ever ran for Ireland. And I was finished second to the Irish, and so all in all, it was an incredible experience, incredible day. And, I hope to do it again someday.
And why not Dublin then? I want to ask Keith, because were you driven in because if you don't do Dublin, you lose your ticket for the next year?
Lottery anymore. No, I tell you, I done Dublin purely because I done it with Alanna the very first time I done it. So I swore this would always be a race that I do regardless. I knew going into doing Dublin, I shouldn't have done it. But again, my ego probably had the better of me, and I went out and I was running sub-3 marathon pace up to mile 7, and I had to stop and take a sulfidine at mile 7, and I limped for 19 miles. I was in agony for 19 miles. Yeah.
Yes.
And that set you up. That was your latest injury that you've recovered from now, and now it's
After that, I had to stop running. After that, I got an MRI, so I had a stress fracture in my femur. And I'd say it was sort of happened probably before the 24-hour, and it was just got progressively worse. And the more I ran on it, the worse it got. And by the time I got the MRI, it was nearly healing again. So I had a race planned, and I literally done a train and run. I got a phone call to stop running. I ran 50K in the mountains, and I got a phone call the next day to say, stop running. You have a stress fracture.
No, about 50K into a run. Yeah.
So I had to pull up on that. So yeah, I didn't run for, I'd say, about 6 months. And so this is where issues start to arise because of I use running as a coping mechanism for, say, coping with the death of my daughter. That's when sort of the mental health starts to take a massive dip. I couldn't run. I was in the gym all the time, but things start to play on your mind. Do you know what I mean? That you're not going to run again. You're going to lose this. You're going to miss this. You're going to, do you know what I mean? Nearly like you're like, you know, you've done all this and what you do it all for. You didn't cope with life the way you should have coped with it. And, you know, so you sort of look at all this and I suppose I had to sort of look at everything that I was doing and not running to the point of hurting myself, you know. And I think, you know, you have stress on your body, you've stress, everybody has stress. The more I suppressed it, it was going to come out somehow, and it came out in the form of a stress fracture. Lucky enough, it was the form of a stress fracture. It could have been something way worse. Do you know what I mean? So I think in the last 6 months that when I wasn't running, I was able to start to look at addressing sort of things in my life that I needed to address. And going back running now, I feel a lot better going back running, a lot better headspace going back running. And I'm running for the right reasons, for myself, for Alanna. And it's not really, you know, to show people how good I am or show, oh, I can do this and I want to be the best at this. I'll do the best I can. And that's good enough for me. And it's good enough for the people that are around me and the people that want me to do well. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you know, people have this perception like I have to go out and I have to win. I always had that. You know, it's the nature of a sport, of doing a sport. But at the same time, you still have to be happy with how you do, because the race itself is just the end line. It's the process from when you start training right the way through. That's what you have to enjoy. And if you're not enjoying that, you have a serious problem.
Do you have
I'm not enjoying this Ironman training, Keith.
Did those 6-7 months away give you I know there are memes and stuff you see on Instagram about like running for my mental health and stuff like that, but taking those 6 months away and then stepping back from just going from race to race and the same race you're doing and now come back with a different perspective, do you have a different outlook of what running does for you mentally, that you need something else as well, or how do you look at it?
No, I seen that I don't take enough time for myself. So my life was like 100 miles an hour, you know, so you're working, you're training, you know, you're getting home to eat, to go to sleep, to do it all over again. And that's the way it was Monday to Sunday. You know, right. You had no time for yourself. There was no being able to sit on your own or read a book or sit with your thoughts, or, you know. So I think because I couldn't run, I had this fear of being on my own. Do you know what I mean? And that's the toughest part of, like, you feel like you have nobody, you feel like lonely. And like ultra running, training, it's a lonely sport, because, you know, the lads will come out and run with me for a few hours and then I keep training and then they'll come out another time. And it's, that's the nature of the sport that you're in. But if you let it get into you, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, there's fucking nobody. Like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's the way it is. But like, yeah, it's sort of, once you're happy, you can be happy with yourself. And once you can sort of sit with yourself and you know, you sit in solitude, as I call it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's no, you don't want to be lonely. You want to be living in solitude, you know. And
it is one thing, and I've never gone to the depths you've gone through, but through busy times, it's the downtime. Like, being on my own on a cycle or a run is grand because I'm doing something. I can get off the bike and go, there's a Strava that says I achieved something there today, and I can take something in that fact. It's when there's nobody around and I'm on the couch for a rest day and you're just tapping the hands and going, oh, I'm wasting a day. I don't know. Like, learning to sit in your hands is probably the hardest task for busy people. Absolutely.
You know, you see, but if you're sitting at home and it says in your training plan, don't train today, or something light, if I wasn't doing something, you feel like you're losing distance, you're losing fitness, you're losing something, you're not doing enough. But that's your inner voice to tell you you're just not doing enough, where you're so used to on the go all the time. So yeah, it's an art in itself to work that. And I started to take, say, one day that I do not train whatsoever, but the night before I nearly wake up with anxiety going, you have to train, you have to train, you have to train. Whereas like you're going, it's actually work out better for me by not training, because it's given me myself that time to rest and recover.
It's a fine art, yeah, it absolutely is. And I feel it myself. If I don't train for 2 days, I think, here I go, starting again.
Yeah. You're on the downward slope, like, you know, you feel like, I've let myself go.
So getting back to running then after your stress factor, that you're only starting back running then 2-3 months. So is that when you got did you know coming back then it was straight to the backyard in October, or when did you get the invite? So this is an invitation thing, I'm assuming, for it has to be an invitation actually for this kind of a race. It is an
invitation thing. So what it is so this the World Satellite Championships is done as well. So the winners of each country goes to Tennessee automatically, and then you have the at-large list, which makes up the highest distances after that. So there's 50 other people make it. So I didn't do the World Satellite Championships. It was the end of last year. It was October last year. I didn't do that because I was injured. GV won that. Now, the only issue is that GV can't represent Ireland in Tennessee because he's Filipino national. So Laz had emailed me and he says, Keith, he says, you're in for the World Championships. He says, if you don't go, there'll be no one representing Ireland. So for me, it was like going, oh, Jesus, I feel a bit under pressure now, you know. But what I was waiting on as well was the 24-hour World Championships is on in December in China. So I was hoping to get onto that team as well. So I was sort of holding off. And Athletics Ireland were sort of not releasing anything. Funding was non-existent. And I couldn't hold off any longer. So I made a decision that I was going to go to Tennessee. I knew with the backyard that I can compete at the highest level. And again, I wanted to go out there and I suppose make amends for Germany as well, because I feel I did probably give up a little too easy. I feel like I gave up on a moment of weakness. So I think I enjoy that. I enjoy that end of running as well, the backyard. So and as well, look, I get to represent Ireland too. As I said, like I'm the Irish representative going out there. So that's a massive honour too. And yeah, just really looking forward to it, really. Like it's the thing about it is it's crew. It's getting someone to crew for you is the hardest part. Because you have to sort of ask someone to give up an amount of time, and they're like, well, how much? I couldn't tell you.
110 hours plus travel there and back.
So it's that end of it too, you know. But yeah, look, it's great to get the invite for it, you know. Like as I said, like I started running 2016. If you had just told me in 2016 that I'd be sort of like second in the world or sixth in the world for last and standing, I would have laughed. Like my parents would have laughed, my family would have laughed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not this fella. Do you know? Whereas now, like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, you know, I train and I'm dedicated and I'm disciplined to what I do. And you know, I'm so focused on what I do and I really, really enjoy what I do. And I enjoy the highs and lows of backyard running. But as I said, like I do, everything I do is for Alanna, because without her coming into my life, I'd never be doing anything like this. And I'm a firm believer that people come into your life for a reason. And like Alanna came into my life for 8 years, and you know it was a tough 8 years because she was very, very high needs, you know. But you know she gave me something, or she brought out a gift in me that I was probably harboring for a long time. And to be able to do this for her. And for my family, you know, like, you know, for my parents to tell me that they're so proud of me, you know, it's just incredible. Like at 40 years of age, my parents probably still see me like still a child, like, do you know what I mean? But to hear that they're so proud of me, not because of running, but just dealing with, you know, life in general and what's been thrown at me in the last few years, and being able to still get up and get on, and you know, I'm still be happy what I'm doing and have a good still outlook in life. I think, you know, like I have, like, I'm 40 years of age. I'm like, you know, probably the guts of another 40 plus years left, and you could live it in misery or you could live it doing the things you want to do and be happy. And I think it's going to go by either way. So you need to be living life happy and enjoying it and doing the things you want to do regardlessly.
No, it's absolutely spot on. And And some people will question 96 hours of running. Is that really happening? But it is definitely unique. And without just doing your family proud, you've definitely done anyone who's come close to you proud. Everyone is proud to know the great work that you're doing. There's great people supporting you. And Keith, I suppose to kind of bring us to the next part and looking forward to Tennessee, and to instill that pride in everyone, how can people get behind you, support you, and follow your journey over the next little while?
Yeah, so I'm recording all my training on my Instagram. So it's Keith Russell, or Keith 3_Russell on Instagram. So I'm just recording it all there, and I do a sort of a weekly update just on training and how it's going and the highs and lows, but hopefully more highs than lows, to be honest. So, yeah.
We'll be definitely checking in with you in the podcast between now and leading up to October. One final question, because I had one or two people get on to me on my measly 15 hours in Dublin about saying, hey, I want to do a backyard ultra and get into it. And I know one of the reasons you're doing this is to promote the sport. If someone's listening and they're like, hey, I actually want to give this a go, have you got any little tips or advice for them?
Yeah, just sign up for it, because like the people within ultra running, the race directors within ultra running, they're all so approachable. They all want to see everyone doing well. The backyard has got bigger. There's more races, actually. There used to be all up the north. Now there's a few around Ireland. So like Barry and John's is a great one. 260 meters of elevation per lap. You can't beat it. I'm going to be there myself next year.
Unfortunately, I am too.
But yeah, look, just get involved, just sign up for it, and just bring a load of food, and people will, it's one of those things, people will talk to you the whole way through, and people be willing you on to do well. And there's no egos within ultra running, people at the high end and people at the low end, they all mix. When you turn up at the start line every hour, it's the start of a new race. Do you know what I mean? So there's no, you're way ahead of me. There's nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It's a phenomenal atmosphere. People cheering each other in at the end of the lap, even getting that last couple of seconds, and then trying to inspire them to go back out and go for another lap. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's a brilliant sport. It's great to see it building up and up. And we've talked over the last hour or so and how absolutely insane the sport is. Keith, thank you very much for this episode of the podcast. I can't imagine anyone listening to this whose mind wasn't blown by your stories over the last hour or so.
Thanks very much. No, I appreciate you having me on, because, as I said, it's to raise the profile of sport. Look, my own profile too, and it's an amateur sport. It's all self-funded too. Do you know what I mean? So I do get people sort of coming on board to give me a hand, which is great. So I really appreciate that as well. So being on the podcast and getting it out there sort of helps all that as well. So I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. Eric?
Absolutely, our pleasure. And to be honest, I didn't train today because I had a busy day. I know I feel like shit. Thanks very much for that, Keith.
It was your rest day.
You've the whole weekend ahead of you.
Thanks so much for humbling. It's always great to have such fantastic guests on, and the caliber you bring to it with such humility is absolutely amazing. We wish you the very best. We are going to be actively following you. We are going to be encouraging people to come out and support you, or any local businesses in around the areas who want to get behind you on your fantastic, and we are going to say, an attempt at a world record, because we know good things are going to happen in Tennessee, and we wish you all the best. We're going to keep rooting you. We'll keep sharing all the work that you're doing and all your stories to keep people involved and tracking all your great work. And well done on everything you've come through, and being so open about it. There's going to be a lot of guys and gals listening to this that are going to take a lot from what you said today, and a lot of them are not easy to talk about, and it's absolutely just an admiration of all that you've done, and I really, really wish you the best. And I'm so glad we got to take an hour of your very valuable time and discuss it and share your story. It's absolutely amazing. Thanks very much.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks very much, Eric. Thanks very much.
Guys, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Day podcast. That's it for myself, Eric, and of course Keith. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.